What is something about yourself that sounds totally made up but is 100% real? I was the best man on both sides of a lesbian wedding because I had dated both the bride and the bride, stayed close friends and introduced them to each other after our breakups. You, sir, are a true bro. Yeah, he may not be a girl, but he was the best man they ever dated. Imagine turning two women lesbian after dating them. I wish I could say it was only two. Lol. I have been informed by ex-partners that I come across as a safe person and it makes people feel comfortable having me as a testing ground when they are unsure or a cover story when they aren't out yet. Doesn't bother me, I take it as a compliment at the end of the day. All joking aside, it really is a testament to your character that they feel comfortable enough to be themselves. Thanks. This will be my last response until I wake up, I have work in 8 hours. Night all. Where did you stand? Thank you to all the responses, it was definitely one of the most unique experiences of my life. As for where I stood, I started on one side and they had a point in the middle of the ceremony where I moved to the other side. You know who else went over to the other side? Alamau. I was at a store when Tony Hawk was signing autographs. I was only 10 at the time and was a huge fan. One of his early video games had just come out. The store had a couple TVs on the wall and some video games to play. Being a kid, I waited for one controller to open up and someone leave. A kid ended up leaving and I grabbed the controller and started playing and minding my own business. A couple minutes later the store wanted to grab photos of Tony playing his own video game. He came over and grabbed the second controller and began to play multiplayer with me. Probably played for 10 minutes. The bonus was it was also my 10th birthday. So I played Tony Hawk Pro Skater with Tony Hawk. Edit. Wow, I made this comment and didn't return to Reddit until just now. Was not expecting it to be that big of a hit. Thank you. I do not have photos of myself playing the game with him, but I believe my parents have a couple of photos of me with him and getting his autograph. I still have the signed board on my wall. Nice try sneaking that BS in at the end. We all know you were turning 11. I've published 4 peer-reviewed scientific papers on hamster testicles. Edit. Holy shit. I never thought I would write this, but rest in peace my inbox. I'm currently working on a critical COVID-related project which doesn't involve testicles and thus would be much less exciting for Redditing purposes. Smiley. This reminds me of a column I read in the Dallas Morning News 20+ years ago about the woman who was the first head of the insect zoo at the dinky little Natural History Museum. She had been a biology major and into bugs and was working in a lab when a friend found out that the museum was looking for a director for its new bug zoo. She got a phone interview with some museum bigwig who asked what she was currently doing. She replied, "I've been dissecting female mosquitoes to find out if they're virgins." He replied, "You're hired." How do you dissect a mosquito? They're so small, must be really difficult. They have tiny scalpels. Made for ants. That's nuts. That's quite the achievement, but why didn't you publish them in journals? He picked up his paper, his ruler and pen. He put down the paper and ruler again. He frowned in the silence. He scratched at his chin. He picked up his hamster. He said, "Let's begin." A pelican engulfed my head with its massive beak when I was a small child. Pelicans are crunches. Pelicrinches. Having lived around pelicans, I can confirm this. Also, I'm sorry, I know that most have been traumatic. But I am laughing so hard right now after reading this. Because I'm imagining a pelican trying to eat a child's head. Like I am actually in tears from your comment making me laugh so hard. It was super terrifying for little me at the time, but it makes for a great story now, so it's not all that bad. I won 2 TV game shows. The $10,000 Pyramid won $10,300 in 1975 and Sale of the Century was on the show for 9 days, $1.34K in cash and prizes in 85. Nice. I've never won anything in my life. Now you have. Smiley. Aw, that's so sweet. I got ran over by a car, but the driver didn't see me and proceeded to back over me. Edit. Thanks for all the kind words. I'm shocked at the amount of people who said that this happened to them or someone they know knew as well. The world really is a weird place. And for all who are asking, my legs are perfectly fine now. On a side note, I actually really enjoy running, it's one of my favorite things to do. No, I am not from China nor have I ever lived there, I'm American, I don't quite understand why people are asking this. Edit number 2. A couple Redditors have pointed out to me that it's because killing someone in China is apparently less expensive, which is a horrifying thought, but thanks for the explanations. Edit number 3. How's my mental health? Was I traumatized? Well, it very fucking terrifying at the time, and I was definitely scared of cars afterwards. But if you're asking if I'm feeling any trauma to this day, then I would say not very much if at all. Thanks for asking though. Smiley. Is he dead? No. Throws it into reverse. Did you get any major injuries? Luckily they didn't get my torso, but they crushed my legs. This was about when I was 13 to 14, about 4 to 5 years ago, so my legs healed and I'm walking again. Smiley. Good to hear that you've recovered. I ran out of gas outside of La Paz, Bolivia. Luckily it was downhill for about 6 kilometers into the city. I coasted the whole way on my motorbike, past buses and drifted into a gas station. Never missed a beat. Sounds like you saved a liter of fuel to me. At age 50 odd and with limited to no video game experience, my mother completed Mario 64 before I did, in about half the time it finally took me to do it. Get good, sweetie. Kiss his forehead. My brother is 31, I'm 19, and when he was born his grandmother, we don't share the same father, bought him an S. My mother, not knowing what to do with it, turned it on and played Super Mario Bros. She spent 2 months every day trying to beat the game, even buying a strategy guide to go through it. She beat the game and never touched a video game again. My mom bought my brother and I a Sega, then every night after we went to bed she would play Sonic. As a kid I thought she just loved playing games, as I got older I realized she only did it so that when we asked her for help she would be able to. A few years ago for her birthday I got her a Sega with Sonic and Sonic 2. I bought everything from the Sonic Edition Sega, just a box, no special skins back then, and everything that came in it. I spent months getting every individual piece including the books, and I had to buy nearly everything separately because they aren't exactly producing them anymore and people didn't exactly stock up on them as collectibles back in the day. By her birthday I had it all assembled, some of it nearly in tatters due to age and wear and tear, but I did it. She loved it, and then about a month later I saw the full set in near pristine condition for sale on eBay, not hers, and for about a tenth of what I had paid to assemble my mom's tattered set. Still the favorite gift I've given. I've had a headache since August 2015, and I will probably have it for the rest of my life. It's only on half my head, so I got that going for me, which is nice. This made me. Oh man out loud. I cannot imagine how you deal. I get headaches and migraines semi-frequently, and sometimes to the point I feel like I am being tortured. Is there nothing they can do? How do you cope with a never-ending pain in your head? I genuinely hope you do not have this for the rest of your life. Get addicted to Vicodin and perform insane doctorly acts. Me too. Also since August of 2015. That's when I had a craniotomy to remove half a brain tumor. I've had a constant headache, right eye blindness, no feeling, and minor paralysis on the right side of my head. But, if you touch the right side of my head just the right way, even though there is no feeling to the head, it tickles my butt. I don't know how it works. I've had one on both sides for over 20 years. Completely unresponsive to everything a neurologist can throw at it. When I was a kid, I woke up to find my cat giving birth to her kittens on my pillow, 1 inch from my face. I took it as a compliment. It totally is. That's like the Cat Congressional Medal of Honor. Right, if a cat closes its eyes around you it means it trusts you, but if it births kittens inches from your face, you must be like family. Edit. I should include sleeping as well. I am related to William Henry Harrison, the president who died from hypothermia because he wouldn't wear a jacket. My great-grandfather and his son both died from hypothermia as well, but under slightly different experiences. I have almost died from eating way too many vitamins, jumping into a ceiling fan, and jumping from a cliff. My dad almost lit a gas station on fire. Basically, we are a very dumb bloodline starting from William Henry Harrison. Someone get this man an agent. And a jacket. I was once sponsored by the Crunk Energy Drink Company for sailing. I imagine I was the only sailor on their list. I literally just emailed them saying that I sailed and asked if they wanted me to put stickers on my boat. They sent me a few cases of the drink, t-shirts, hats, the works. My car was known as the Crunk Mobile. That's badass. When my mom was in grad school she took several labs where she worked with cadavers. Because my dad worked nights, she often had to take me to class with her, and she'd usually just plonk me down on the table with the cadaver while she worked on it. Can I go to work with you? Over my dead body. Why do I imagine some macabre sitcom scene where, after little sleep, she's halfway through a dissection before she realizes she mixed up which one she should be dissecting and which one she should be giving the bottle to. I bought a guitar amp from Brad Whitford of Aerosmith when I was 17. He and Steven Tyler served up cheeseburgers for me and my friends. Edit. As requested. So, Brad's son was a punk and I knew him from the scene. I was in a band that had some small local marginal success. This is 97-98s in Boston. I needed a new amp for our first US tour, but had very little money. I was getting drunk with his son and, on a whim, I asked him if his dad had any amps laying around that he didn't need. We laughed and carried on partying. The next day, I get a call at my home. It was Mr. Whitford himself. He was super nice but to the point. My son says you got a band and need a good rig for your Les Paul. I have something in mind for you. Just gotta have my guy get it from the warehouse. Come by my house in Norwell this weekend and check it out. That was the gist of the call. Obviously, the whole band came with me. And our roadie. We get to his house and it's totally him. So weird. These guys were like gods in Boston. I wasn't the hugest fan, but knew him from his work with Wayne's World. He takes me to one of his garages where there is this cool full stack. The brand is Bedrock. An old company from New Hampshire that made good quality amps in the 80s. This one was custom made for Brad. Basically Marshall components. 4 tubes. All the knobs go to 11. Not kidding. Still has the property of Aerosmith stickers on it. He plugs it in and reps a crazy solo on his Les Paul and then hands it to me and I play a couple power chords. He asks for $300 for the whole thing. I pay him and he tells his son to give us a tour of the house. This is where shit gets nuts. It's just like you expect. Tons of gold records, platinum records, pictures of him with people like John Lennon, Robert De Niro and Joey Ramone. Then we get to see his studio and the largest collection of Marshall amps in the world. Seriously, like 200 cabs. A wall of guitars. Guitars so pretty and amps so cool, it made sense for him to find the one he sold me dispensable. After the house tour, he told us to meet him at the little bar and grill they own in town. When we get there early and he arrives 30 minutes later with Myth African Steven Tyler in tow. You guys, the punk group, he was so nice. They went in the back and came out with burgers for us all on the house. Then they straight up left. Irish good beat, even. I still have the amp. I used it on the road for almost 10 years in 5 bands. Now, it's just a conversation piece. But it still works. I'll crank her up every now and then. Details please. What amp? When, where was this? I'm a rock nerd and stuck at home for the normal reasons. Please indulge me with a grand and mostly true story. Edit. Thank you for the story. My highest voted comment is requesting a story about one of greatest American rock bands ever, and my request was granted and I'd have it no other way. Super cool, you still have the amp. I'm jealous and hungry for cheeseburgers now. Probably gonna turn on rocks and spray weeds in my lawn after the daily Trump ramblings. God, I'm getting old. So, Brad's son was a punk and I knew him from the scene. I was in a band that had some small local marginal success. This is 97-98s in Boston. I needed a new amp for our first US tour, but had very little money. I was getting drunk with his son and, on a whim, I asked him if his dad had any amps laying around that he didn't need. We laughed and carried on partying. The next day, I get a call at my home. It was Mr. Whitford himself. He was super nice but to the point. My son says you got a band and need a good rig for your Les Paul. I have something in mind for you. Just gotta have my guy get it from the warehouse. Come by my house in Norwell this weekend and check it out. That was the gist of the call. Obviously, the whole band came with me. And our roadie. We get to his house and it's totally him. So weird. These guys were like gods in Boston. I wasn't the hugest fan, but knew him from his work with Wayne's World. He takes me to one of his garages where there is this cool full stack. The brand is Bedrock. An old company from New Hampshire that made good quality amps in the 80s. This one was custom made for Brad. Basically Marshall components. 4 tubes. All the knobs go to 11. Not kidding. Still has the property of Aerosmith stickers on it. He plugs it in and reps a crazy solo on his Les Paul and then hands it to me and I play a couple power chords. He asks for $300 for the whole thing. I pay him and he tells his son to give us a tour of the house. This is where shit gets nuts. It's just like you expect. Tons of gold records, platinum records. Pictures of him with people like John Lennon, Robert De Niro and Joey Ramone. Then we get to see his studio and the largest collection of Marshall amps in the world. Seriously, like 200 cabs. A wall of guitars. Guitars so pretty and amps so cool, it made sense for him to find the one he sold me dispensable. After the house tour, he told us to meet him at the little bar and grill they own in town. When we get there early and he arrives 30 minutes later with Muthaficant Steven Tyler in tow. You guys, the punk group, he was so nice. They went in the back and came out with burgers for us all on the house. Then they straight up left. Irish good beat, even. I still have the amp. I used it on the road for almost 10 years in 5 bands. Now, it's just a conversation piece. But it still works. I'll crank her up every now and then. I can't look left. Seriously. I'm not an ambi looker, it's like the Zoolander of birth defects. It's called Duane syndrome, and my left eye can't turn left, so if I try to look to my left I see double. Growing up, my parents raised me to believe it was a party trick and not a disability, so I would always show it off to friends, which in retrospect I think was pretty sweet. Edit. My mom discovered that something was off when I was a baby, and she was doing the airplane motion with a spoon of baby food to the left. My left eye was not cooperating, lol. Edit 2. Fun fact: now that I'm in my 30s, I can see in photos that there is a bag under my right eye, but not under my left eye, presumably because I use my right eye far more often. Edit 3. I am so excited to see there are so many fellow Redditors with Duanes and I'm not alone. I've never met anyone else who had it, so it's really nice to hear from people who know what it's like. Edit 4. A lot of you have asked about driving. It didn't impact me, mainly because my mom taught me how to use my mirrors first by turning my head, before even letting me turn the car on for the first time. She walked around the car and we tried to identify my limitations. I also have a blind spot detector on my car now, which is super helpful. I try not to totally depend on it though. Don't worry, it'll be alright, your mom, probably. Edit. Removed implication that op was male. Props to your parents for expert handling that situation. You probably grew without even thinking you had any sort of disability and found out until you were old enough it didn't matter anymore. I saw the former Prime Minister of Poland in his underwear. That's not how the rhyme goes. I see London. I see France. I see the Prime Minister of Poland in his underpants. Husband and I fell in love at first sight. Moved in together after 2 days. Married 5 months later. Still married. It will be 40 years in May. Congrats on 40 years. That's amazing. I want to find love like that someday. I am one of very few people outside World War I to live through mustard gas. So rare the doctors, 1995, no internet, had no idea how to treat me. How? Thanks for the award. Pure child. Stupidity. I grew up in a sparsely populated High Sierra community with lots of empty vacation homes. One of these homes was under construction about a block. There were no blocks in reality, just long windy roads cutting through the forest, and the construction crew would just leave the half-finished house open between shifts. Because no one lives here anyway. Me, a retard. Me and a friend decided to stumble into the home and fuck around with rando stuff. I saw a large vat used for mixing liquids and poured an entire bucket of industrial cleaning liquid into it. I went and got another large bucket full of chems, don't mix rando industrial chems, children, and dumped that in there too. Huge yellow gas explosion in my face. I got about 15 feet away before collapsing and beginning to retch yellow goo and vomit everywhere. No breathing now, just gasping and vomiting goop. My friend ran to get my mom. She called ambulance. They put me in a helicopter and sent me to UC Davis Medical Center. My doctor eventually made contact with someone who knew how to treat my case through the internet. I had never heard of it. 2 weeks in the ICU, almost died, and my lungs are still fucking trash. I'm 34 now. Jesus Christ, kids are F stupid. Right. Modern medicine saved me from Mr. Darwin.